Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. It's your host, Jayne, here with today's review of yesterday's Overwatch League games. Yesterday's games honestly weren't exactly that exciting, except, wait, hold on a second. Arrow! Yeah, can you get Nate on the phone? Yeah, it says here that Shanghai Dragons won against Boston. 3-1. Wait, that's not a mistake? What the? So yeah, that actually happened. You do not need to adjust your television set, you don't need to adjust your glasses. The Shanghai Dragons actually ended up beating the Boston Uprising 3-1 last night. And if you were doing this silly thing called sleeping, then oh boy did you miss out. And to get right into the thick of things, Fusions from the Boston Uprising, the main tank that has risen to popularity through his World Cup run as well as the first two games of the Overwatch League so far, did not start for the Boston Uprising against the Shanghai Dragons. Instead, and most likely due to Colorhex finally completing his 2-game suspension for account boosting, started on off-tank with Axiom starting on main tank instead. And as if to make this storyline even sweeter, of course, Gamsu, formerly of the Boston Uprising, started in that main tank position for the Shanghai Dragons. Starting out during Game 1 on Ilios, Boston Uprising tried out a little bit of an interesting composition with a Winston and a Hammond, while the Shanghai Dragons came out with a Widowmaker and a Pharah, and then swapped to Sombra as the game went on. The first round on Ilios went in the favor of Shanghai Dragons, and then the second map on Ruins also went in favor of the Shanghai Dragons as they closed out the map 2-0. However, the hype train was just leaving the station. As both teams moved on to Kings Row, Boston Uprising did not exactly have what could be called a stellar attack, with Note flexing off of his signature pick of Diva and onto Reaper. With Color Hex on Zarya as well as the Zenyatta's Discord, this is on paper an extremely high damage composition. However, Boston Uprising simply wasn't able to apply that damage, and Note's ult charge in particular suffered as a result. When it was Shanghai Dragons' turn for the attack, they elected to go for the much more popular and powerful Sombra pick instead of Reaper, and had no trouble going through all stages of Kings Row to finish with time. Compared to the Boston Uprising's attempt that finished in overtime, this gave the Shanghai Dragons 2.5 minutes in order to secure a first tick on Kings Row for the victory and to put the series up 2-0, and again with the assistance of Sombra, they were able to make it happen. Moving on to the Horizon Lunar Colony map, this was a much closer map with both teams struggling for that W as hard as they could. Boston Uprising, of course, not wanting to be the first team to drop a series to the Shanghai Dragons, and the Shanghai Dragons desperately looking to end their franchise loss streak of 42 games in a row. And although it's going to end with a completely different squad than it began, after 2 extra rounds, Shanghai was able to finally close out the series and secure the win overall. They did, however, as the Overwatch League format always goes, play that 4th map in which it was Rialto, and the only possible thing that could have made this fight more poetic would have been Gamsu closing out the series with a game-winning shatter. Unfortunately, that didn't actually end up happening. Despite a fantastic first point hold from the Shanghai Dragons and 2 attempts from Gamsu to land that shatter, which would have closed out the map, Boston held strong with an even better first hold, but at that point the damage was already done and Boston lost 1-3 to the Shanghai Dragons. Now, if you're like me and you want to take a look at this game a little bit more in depth, well then, chances are that if you're watching this, I'm probably live or already finished my review of the Shanghai Dragons versus the Boston Uprising. I'm going to be going live at 5 a.m. Pacific time. Got to do it early because we got a game today, but I want to take a look. I want to see how big of an impact did Fusion's absence have, how good was Color Hex, did Axiom do a better or a worse job than Fusion's on that main tank role, what was going on with Boston, how good is Shanghai, was it their victory or Boston's loss, and many, many more questions. So check that out. I'll be going live at 5 a.m. Pacific on twitch.tv/Jayne. Also, before I move on to talking about the other games, I'd just like to let you know that this is actually a regular series. If you do like the recap of the previous night's games, as well as a preview of the games to come, then you can check out the channel Elo Hell Esports. This is a secondary channel that I started up in order to do more specific league reviews and to make sure that you guys have content to watch even when I'm busy with the Dallas Fuel. So we've been doing these every single day to make sure that if you missed a game, or if you're in Europe and you've got this silly thing to do called sleep, that you can catch up and keep informed about what's happening in the Overwatch League. Not all of these videos are recorded by me, obviously, and as such, today I'd like to introduce you to Jaws, who's going to be previewing the games that you have to look forward to today.
The first match of the day will be Eternal versus the Gladiators. Eternal have already shown how good EU33 is, crushing Spitfire. You can continue to expect them to be the team to beat. Their experience has already gotten them a decisive win. However, facing Gladiators on Numbani in the second map could prove rather fatal, as there is much more room for DPS play for something like a Pharah. Gladiators have already fallen victim to Dynasty's redemption arc. They could, however, utilise the knowledge Ripper can bring to the table from his experience facing some of the Eternal players in contenders. This could lead to some interesting setups for the Gladiators. However, if they do run head first into Eternals 3-3, they will have a very bad time. Fusion and Fuel will go head to head in the second match of the evening. Fusion have had a good start to the season, finding a revenge on Spitfire, but have had an uncharacteristic loss versus Mayhem a couple of days ago. Carpe has always been a standout player for the team, coming in clutch in overtime or when the team is in a tight situation, whether it's on his legendary Widowmaker or Zarya. They face the Fuel, who are off to a rough start, already being 4-0 twice this season. With their flexible roster of players, they should be in good standing facing off against the Fusion, who have the capabilities to play either 3-3 or some DPS picks. The 3-3 from Fuel looks ever so slightly superior with their secret weapon, the RCK bot. His diva is well known in EU and now known by the world at this point. His experience with 3-3 will surely tip the scales in their favour. I hope you enjoyed this small preview of the matches to come. My name is Jaws, and you can enjoy more of this content on the Elo Hell YouTube channel.